Hello, and thank you for joining us on the 25th Hour. I'm Lauren Spruill. We are a current affairs show produced by Carleton University School of Journalism, and today we'll be showing you around our campus while we showcase stories from throughout the Ottawa area.
I'm Mona Mahmoud. Today's show will feature a range of stories such as low-income housing in Ottawa and the importance of mental health awareness.
I'm Joshua Susi. We'll also introduce you to a local poutine and shawarma restaurant that hires Syrian refugees.
And I'm Lisa Thibodeau. We've got lots of compelling stories from local residents in the nation's capital. Our first story takes us to an animal shelter in Kemptville.
Many artists often find inspiration in the world around them, drawing on the beauty of everyday life in their art. Here at Carleton's own art gallery, you can find examples of such beauty and inspiration hanging from the walls.
Absolutely. People find inspiration from many different kinds of places.
Big Sky Ranch is one such place. It's an animal sanctuary located just outside of the city and the only one of its kind in Eastern Ontario. Home to dogs, cats, horses, and even emus, the ranch is a safe haven for the animals until they find their forever home.
Andy Parent owns Big Sky Ranch, and he tries to bring light to animal rights activism and education through his work. The 25th Hour stopped by to meet some of the animals and the passionate volunteers who take care of them.
Personally, it's brought in a lot of happiness, a lot of faith in man. It's brought me a lot of joy. The joy of watching people come that work together and smile and work towards the same thing.
Hey, Chief. Hey, Chief. Here's me.
My name is Debbie Perkis. I am a volunteer, longtime volunteer here at Big Sky Ranch, and I'm a member of the board of directors. I've been here for about 4 years now, I guess, working with the animals and helping out where I can. What our mandate is to rehome. So all of the animals that come here, our purpose is to try and find them, where possible, a new home that they can have a second chance at life. Some shelters, for example, they try their best, but they're really overloaded. And so there becomes a time limit on the length of time that the animals can stay there. And if they're not adopted within that period of time, then they will be euthanized. We are different in that respect. Right from the time that the sanctuary started, we didn't want to have that happen, and there aren't any time limits on the animals that come here. If it takes a year to adopt them, if it takes 2 years to adopt them, that's okay. You know, we're gonna let them stay here until the right home comes along for them. You know, we've had animals here for 3-4 years before they found a home, and that's okay. We love them anyway.
Since this place has started, I am proud to say that we have found homes for more than off me here. We have found homes for more than like 2,800 animals. And I'm not talking about small animals. I'm talking about horses. I'm talking about like 98 horses, llamas, alshipa, goats, all kinds of animals. We need people to help with the place, to build things and to build fences when they break down, or build structures or shelters for the animals. And at the same time, it costs to buy those materials.
We don't receive any government funding at all, not a penny. So everything that we do is supplied to us, paid for by the donations that we get from the community. And that's why we're always doing things, fundraisers, why we're going off the ranch to events. It's all about trying to raise awareness for the sanctuary and raise donations. We will not make it if people don't continue to open their wallets and their hearts and support us. Well, I guess I was one of those people that came with a personal story, and a lot of people who do start here do have sort of a personal reason for reaching out to begin with, and I was one of them. I went through a horrendous breakup, which is one of the fairly typical ways that we end up with animals coming here. Marriages, relationships break up. So as part of this breakup, I lost my farm and had to move. And so that's how I came here, was because I needed this place, and I came and I stayed. For me, it was a give back what I had benefited from in the first place. And as I said, that was 4 years ago, and I'm still here. So
They'll tourists for the box.
we have a lot of people who come here who've been through traumatic things. We've had, ex-military people. We've had people who have dealt with horrible family situations. We have a lot of different people who come here looking for peace, really is what it is. Because dealing with the animals, you get something that you don't get dealing with people, right?
Come back, you kitty! Come back, you kitty!
There was a woman who came here one day, and she was looking at the pigs, and she had this baby, and it was a little baby. And the baby started laughing at the pot-bellied pigs, and I looked over, and this mom had tears running down her face, absolutely like drenching her face. And I thought, oh my gosh, like what's going on? And I said, what's wrong? And she said, that's the first time my daughter has ever smiled. Yeah. So. A lot of times they're getting more out of the sanctuary than what they're actually giving, putting in, because it's truly, it is a magical place for many people.
I hope it becomes known all over the world. I hope it never stops. I hope that, the animals that are here now, I hope one day I can see on the other side of Rainbow Bridge. I hope that they have enjoyed their life here, and I'm sure they have. I mean, they got freedom, they can do whatever they want, they have lots of space, they get lots of food. So my hope for the future is that this place becomes so large and so big that people turn around and say, wow, that's what we need to work towards. I know this place is true, and I know this place was built on love. So I know if a lot more places can build itself like this, that we'll have a much better world.
Oh gosh, they're so cute. I want one.
Same. The passion of the ranch's staff and volunteers really is heartwarming.
Here at Carleton's Art Gallery, many pieces have captured the essence of everyday life, showcasing both the triumphs and the challenges we humans face.
The current housing situation in Canada's capital has left many low-income families high and dry. Many of them are forced to live in areas affected by crime, substance abuse, and violence.
A new social housing community in Barrhaven is hoping to change that. It's called The Haven, and it's a safe, clean, family-friendly community. Layla and Stephanie are two single mothers who spoke with the 25th Hour about their journeys in finding a safe and affordable home for their families.
A home means to me peace, safety, and comfort.
A home for me is a safe place. A place where I can breathe and be free, when I could go outside, have a coffee just here on the porch.
Pretty much what it means to have that feeling of peace,
My name is Layla. I'm a single mom. I came here with my son 11 years ago from Germany. It's a blessing to be here, and it's safe here.
My name's Stephanie Saunders. I'm 26 years old. My son's name is Demias, and he's almost a year old.
They told me the waiting list is 3 to 7 years. So after 3 years, I called them up and said, hey, what's going on? Can we move now? We want to move. When I called them, they told me, no. Now the waiting list is 10 to 14 years. I said, what? 10 to 14 years? But I'm already there since 3 years. You have to count that in. No. And when I got the letter that I can apply for housing in the Haven, I was like, oh, the Haven! We are working for this since so long time.
I wasn't waiting for that long. Like, some people have to wait way longer than I did, so I actually got very lucky. And it makes people happier. Like, you're a product of your environment, right? So if you're always around negative things all the time, that's how you're gonna feel, that's how you're gonna be. But if you're around positivity, that's how you're gonna grow. You're gonna grow positively. And that's why I'm so lucky to have my son here, you know? Because he'll be happy.
And now it's ready and people move in. I was so overwhelmed, I was so happy. But in the end, I think the patience was paid off. The patient was paid off, and being here is just amazing. When I come down, I can open the door, I can breathe. This is something that for 10 years I didn't even know that, but here I'm feeling that I can breathe now.
I'm so lucky, to have gotten this place. It's like a one in a million really chance that I could have this. There's no other options like this, you know?
Cardwell or Ramsey, they are not the right neighborhoods for a growing boy who wants to be independent, who wants to go out by himself and not always going out with mommy. He wants to have his liberty. I said, no, I cannot do that. These are not safe neighborhoods, and no.
Some areas there's a lot of drugs, prostitution.
Stabbing, murder, gangs, shooting at night.
My parent doesn't like all the guns.
It's not what you want to see your child in.
I really wanted to have a safe place to raise my son.
He needs a safe neighborhood and needs friends that he can relate to and be happy with.
Yeah, my friend's looking for a new place to live too. Because imagine having 4 kids, young kids, and then people are getting killed right on your street. But you don't have any other options. It's what are you supposed to do?
Having a home here means happiness, means being safe.
I think that living in a place where you feel happy, it makes people happier, you know? It just brings people together because it's we feel blessed, you know?
It's encouraging to see better housing options for low-income families in Ottawa, but not everyone has a warm place to sleep at night.
Ben Williamson is a young adult with cerebral palsy. He has struggled with many hardships throughout his life. On top of dealing with his disability, Williamson was homeless for a year.
Things started to turn around for Williamson when multiple news agencies picked up on his story. He now lives and studies here at Carleton thanks to donations he received through crowdfunding. While grateful, he says the system needs to change.
Here's Ben's story.
We are privileged to live in Canada, and we, I think, have this idea of what Canadian society or Canadian life brings, and then when that's ripped away from you in 24 hours, you really have a sense of what's important in life. It's a neurological disorder that affects my neuromotor system, and is, in my case, means that I have limited use of my extremities. I was in a abusive relationship, family relationship, and I didn't want to do that anymore. So I made the decision for the betterment of my mental health to leave, although it was not something I did voluntarily. I've often said that Susan Burho saved me and allowed me to realize my potential. If it was not for Susan Burho, I would be on the street at the moment.
We were just thinking for this year, at least, if we could just get him through this year and see what happens. And then we just had this tremendous response.
The fact that the Canadian public was able to raise $45,000 is amazing. The problem that I have is that amount of money, it puts me still in a position where I have to make decisions about what is the most important at the moment. The cost of living with a disability in comparison to $45,000 is astronomical.
Cleavages between different groups in society.
It's depressing. It's tragic. It's sad, and I want to be the last.
Like that Carleton is the only institution in North America that has 24-hour care? Why? Why is that? Like, that's great that Carleton is, but what about people living elsewhere in the country, right? Like Ben's from Toronto. Why wasn't there some place in Toronto that has those kinds of services?
I think the generosity to people in Ottawa is amazing. I mean, my story went throughout Toronto before it went throughout Ottawa, and I didn't get $45,000 from Toronto. Well, I think that I think that I'm a new face to a long-standing issue. I think that people think that because I'm disabled, I can't become homeless because there are safety nets within the government and within society that prevent that. And I can tell you that I'm not the only one. I have friends who are in similar positions to what I was and don't feel they can leave because of the lack of social support. So I hope that society uses my story as a catalyst to change. I had to bring my story to the attention of the public before somebody actually stepped up and said, we're going to do something. Does that mean that every homeless kid has to put their face on a television screen to be able to survive in Canada? Is that really what we're telling people? And if we are, then I think we need to examine if that's the type of Canada we want to live in, because that's not my Canada.
It can be tough to ask for help when you're struggling with your mental health. Places like this friendship bench were created to start these kinds of conversations. The Canadian Mental Health Association says that 1 in 5 Canadians will struggle with their mental health at some point throughout their lives, some as early as childhood.
But an Ottawa educator wants people to know that healing does happen. Chris Naimi struggled for years with his own mental health issues, which inspired him to help others. He gives presentations to students across the city to teach them about healing and hope.
Suicide's never a choice. Sickness makes that choice. Bullying makes that choice. All these things that are not you make that choice. So my name is Chris Naimi. I am a mental health advocate, recently selected to be a face of mental illness for Canada. I'm also a teacher, an author, and a mental health speaker. I do talks to inspire people and give people hope in their life, and to show them that healing does happen. In 1997, I left university. I had been accepted into Teachers College. I graduated on the Dean's List. I had so many things going in my life. But I went into my job in 1998. I was teaching a grade 4 class, and I was known as Mr. Naimi. To these kids, I was Superman. And as the pressure of teaching built up and triggered what was going on in my mind, the illnesses that I was struggling with were starting to pop their heads up more and more. And I would smile, and those kids would come up to me, and that fake smile would just emanate, and these kids had no clue what was going on. In 2000, I resigned from full-time teaching without anyone knowing the real reason why. But as I left and went into January of 2001, something started to happen. And I went from feeling the lowest, terrible feelings I could have, and I started to feel really good. And as the faith built up and I felt better and higher and higher and higher, I thought I was a prophet of God. And it got so intense that in April of that 2001 year, I thought that I was actually the second coming of Christ. But what goes up must come down. After being in mania for 4 months, feeling this incredible feeling, I started to slide down. And my sister called me and she said, "You gotta go see someone." She said, "Go and see the doctor. You're not feeling well." So I finally did. And it was confirmed, and he told me 4 words that just changed my life forever. He said, "You have bipolar disorder." If I didn't have my family at that time, if they were not there, I would have been on the streets, guaranteed, or I would have been dead. And when I picked up a pen to write my book, 2 Sides of the Story, it changed my life completely. I finally had a purpose in my life. I was going to write my story. I was going to change the way people thought about mental health. I was going to show them that acceptance and compassion, when it is there, a person can heal. I did make it out of the basement. By mid-September, I had flown the coop and was making my way outside of my own will. I was seeing friends and taking care of some responsibilities regarding my novel. I would subsequently, with extreme hard work and strength, emerge to work, write, and live. I would become me again, but different. I felt it was really important to speak to elementary students as well, because they may be young, but if we can show them early that if they're struggling, if they need help, that they got to speak up and reach out and get that help. If we can show them early at a young age, when they get to high school and things get more challenging with the pressures of high school life, they're going to be able to go, "Mr. Naimi said, I got to get help if I feel this way, so I'm going to reach out for help." What other healthy things could someone do with dealing with mental health? Mind blank? That's okay.
You should not lose hope, because someday you get out of that mental state and you'll be better and fine and healthy.
It all begins with the compassion and acceptance of loving people around you, because without them, the hope isn't there.
Naimi's story is truly inspiring and shows us that no matter how dark things may seem, there are always better days ahead.
Yeah, and many university students know what it's like to struggle in class. But for students that are deaf or hard of hearing, getting a post-secondary education can be even harder. Susan Eagles is a deaf student at Carleton, and she uses an interpreter to get through her every day.
American Sign Language interpreters can make a world of difference, but unfortunately, there are still many barriers that deaf and hard of hearing students need to overcome.
So at the moment, we have 3 deaf students on campus. So there's always a pair of interpreters that are working a class. It's a physically demanding job as well as a mentally draining job because of the working in the 2 languages. So they spell each other off. We rely heavily on professors to help help interpreters in the classroom. Because they're really translating to and from 2 different languages, especially if the class has some fairly technical terminology, it's important that the interpreters be prepared in advance to make sure that they can sign that terminology in the best possible way. And so we rely on profs to help interpreters through just simple things, like if they have extra copies of the textbook, to offer it to interpreters to borrow for the term. If they don't, and the interpreters feel that for any particular course they really need that resource, we'll purchase it for the interpreters. But in addition to that, having them set up and see to learn in the class so that they can sort of see what students are seeing in terms of communications from the professor. All of these things, having access to the PowerPoints in advance maybe, just to help them get ready. So typically that's what we ask of faculty. And we communicate with them, again, early in the term to say, okay, you're going to have a team of interpreters in your classroom. Here's what we recommend. We're not really set up to provide interpreting services for everything that's going on campus, whether it be, convocation or whether it be, a special performance offered by Sock and Buskin.
Academic challenges are one thing, but for some, even getting around campus is a challenge. We're here at Carleton's Residence Commons, where behind me you can see an accessibility ramp leading into the building.
We're very lucky to have a special guest on our show today to help us learn a little bit more about accessibility on campus. Larry McCloskey, the director of the Paul Menton Center, spoke with our own Kaylin Wibbs.
Well, thank you so much for having us here today to speak with you.
My pleasure.
So what kind of services are offered here at Carleton?
So we do things that like note taking, and we have a bursary to get students equipment and tutoring if they need it. The services that we offer are designed to level the playing field, and we've been around now, these offices, for 25 years, and students used to do poorly, and we did some research, and our students now beat the general population graduation rate by 2%. So that if ever there was something that could test the efficacy of our efforts, that would be it. Then we did a forensic audit, and we came up 20% in 20 years. I don't know if you're familiar with it is so hard to change graduation rates. An institution our size, if you can change that by 2%, that's worth a lot of money, and there's a lot of prestige in that too. So for our students who have these disadvantages, to beat or be at the general population is pretty huge. So I would like for us to be more outcome driven, and now including employment, which there is no measure at present.
Why does Carleton make these programs so easily accessible to students?
Well, we have a history of accommodating students, and when I started at the dawn of time when the dinosaurs roamed, we were 90% visible disability, so mobility, sensory, blind, deaf, and wheelchair primarily. And then over the years, though, we had the proliferation of these other non-visible groups. Learning disabilities was huge, and there was a fair bit of resistance. Learning disability sounds like the ultimate oxymoron, inability to learn. But it was it was based on processing problems. So we did get around that. It took some years. And now the big piece and the biggest population is mental illness, and it's very complicated. And so there's a lot of work that's got to be done to accommodate and to differentiate between those who really need it and those who need other things. As of last reporting date to the ministry, we're 92% non-visible disabilities. So even as our visible population's gone out in absolute terms, in relative terms, it's down to 8%.
How does this program compare to those at other schools?
I would say the difference between us and some other places is that we are really intent upon outcome and doing what needs to get done, and not just sort of the new figure of speech is virtue signaling. We don't do that here. We try to deliver in an understated way, if we can, what needs to get done.
How is it that Carleton is able to have 24-hour care for these students?
So there was an interesting little time a couple of years ago where the minister's office, who funds us, phoned and wondered the same thing. They wondered, what are we missing? And when I applied for funding a long time ago, I thought it would happen at a lot of universities. And they couldn't figure it out. What happened? A mother of a quadriplegic in a northern university asked, why can't it be at my campus? And the answer is deceptively simple. You have to have the infrastructure with accessibility to match. And we're talking about, in that case, a small population, high physical disability level. And it's not, the other thing is too, it's a very difficult service to provide. Let's face it, it's high levels, intimate care, it's not an easy thing to do, but it's not a service people are really wanting to do unless they have to. We pride ourselves, and we do like doing it, but 30 years in, it's not like it becomes less complicated.
So one of our other 25th Hour reporters had a chance to speak to Ben Williamson, the student who's here with cerebral palsy and got here due to a GoFundMe page. So what do you think we as a country can do to give students more opportunity, like the one that Ben has, to get a higher education while having the accessibility to the 24-hour care here at Carleton?
Two things. We have to make it so that students are attracted to come here in terms of education. We're also making a big pitch now to try to get funding for employment for persons with disabilities. And again, though, we're trying to overcome the barriers and the stigma and deal with what students can actually do, because employment's been difficult. And even today, I mentioned we do well in terms of graduation rate, but as soon as you step out of campus for employment, you're twice as likely to be underemployed or unemployed with a disability. We have to address that, and that's what we're hoping to do next.
And in your and the rest of the PMC's opinion, in the ideal world, what does your program look like?
I was a distance runner for 30 years. I'm driven by the outcome of the finish line, and I think that and people around here are driven towards actual achievable outcomes. and not where they're now. Sometimes they're kept out of making the money and having the careers that they should based on disability, and that's just wrong.
Well, that's all I have. Thank you so much for having us.
My pleasure again.
We're standing here on the edge of campus, under the Bronson Bridge. This is one of only 2 areas in Ottawa where graffiti artists can legally practice their art form.
While some may think graffiti adds beauty to the city, others might consider it to be an eyesore. A graffiti artist is just one of the voices you're going to hear from in this next doc. So what does it really mean to make a city beautiful? Let's take a look.
What makes a city beautiful to me?
But the beauty of Ottawa is right now, the fall of the year. I mean, it's spectacular.
I travel with my dog here, so a city that has a lot of green spaces and parks and open areas like we're in right now in this beautiful park here.
Me personally, I just like the atmosphere and the people. I think that's what makes any type of place, but that's just me.
A beautiful city to me is being able to share many different perspectives. My name is Jamie Coble, and I'm Cree Métis from northern Alberta, a place called Lac La Biche. My father's from Buffalo Lake Métis settlement, where he still lives off the land, and my mom is from Estevan, Saskatchewan, and her mother is from Nidopine in Germany. I think one of the things that makes a beautiful city as well, just on a sort of visual level, is a lot of green space. In that green space, there's a lot of knowledge, even within the plants, thinking about our connection to the land as Indigenous people. And I hope that's one thing that Ottawa continues to save. I think a beautiful city is a place where many stories are told. So whether there's a monument that is Indigenous or not Indigenous, that we can listen to and acknowledge the other stories that surround the reason that monument is there.
I think like a beautiful city is a lively city. I'm Dan Metcalf. I'm 35 years old. I've lived in Ottawa pretty much my entire life. I'm a big believer in public art. I think it's a good tool for wayfinding. I think it inspires a younger generation. Lots of art is always a great thing, whether you like it or you don't. But it is all subjective, and it's, you know, people have their own opinions of things. I think, you know, as long as it derives some emotion from people, I think then it's doing its job. It gives it more culture, and so I think that really helps the city become more beautiful.
To me, a beautiful city is one that is thoughtfully designed for people of all ages, all backgrounds, a place that makes people feel welcome and that they belong. My name is James Chan. I'm 33 and I grew up in the Greater Toronto area. I moved to Ottawa about 2 years ago from Toronto. I think in our day and age where people have all kinds of mobility options, people move all the time for school, for work, for love, for family, and just for the new experience of trying a new place out. I think it's really important for people to see their cities as something that kind of truly speaks to them, that they feel that they truly belong and are welcome. Cities are all about people. So I think a beautiful city is one that treats the people who live in it more than just as taxpayers, and as really as residents and citizens, as people who love their city and want to make it better. and providing opportunities for them to make it better in all ways that are meaningful to them.
Whether or not you're a fan of graffiti, one thing we can all agree on is that it's a defining characteristic of many cities.
Another marker of urban life is public transportation. This fairly mundane part of our everyday commute has become a battleground for political discourse after a recent bill was passed in Quebec.
Recently, Quebec's provincial government passed a law forbidding anyone using a public service, including riding transit, from covering their face. The 25th Hour's Aaron Hemmons is here now with his take on the issue. Take a look.
Quebec, our beloved neighbors across the Ottawa River. In some ways, we're the same, but in many ways we're different. For example, here in Ottawa, I can pick up my child from daycare wearing whatever I want, whether my face is covered or not. But in Quebec, come July 2018, that might be different. The issue here is Bill 622, which is being called a religious neutrality law. The law demands that Quebec residents uncover their faces when giving or receiving public services. It's the first jurisdiction in North America to have put this into legislation. Congrats, we beat the states to this one. So if you're someone in Quebec who regularly covers their face, I've got some bad news for you. You can go to the library, but you can't take out a book. You can sit in a waiting room in a clinic, but you can't interact with the staff. Hell, you can't even ride a bus. So who does this hurt? It hurts people who wear sunglasses, it hurts mass vigilantes, but the people who are going to feel the impact the most are Muslim women wearing the niqab or the burqa. Quebec Minister of Justice Stephanie Vallée said that this is a bill that is inclusive, that it respects an individual's choice. I, for one, think that this bill does the opposite. I think it strips a woman of her choice. A Muslim woman wears a burqa or a niqab for a number of reasons, one being religious conviction or for modesty. But nonetheless, it's a choice. A recent survey conducted by Global News found that 68% of Canadians somewhat or strongly support this law being put in place in their part of the country. Canada prides itself in being a nation that values diversity, but apparently that isn't the case anymore. You know, my mom always told me to ignore someone or something if it bothers you. So if you're someone who's deeply bothered by someone's article of clothing, you should just ignore it and live your life, and let other people live their lives too. If Canada wants to portray itself as a country that accepts everyone, well then we better start accepting everyone. The fact that I'm ranting about this is quite embarrassing. I want to apologize to all the women in Quebec who are affected by this law. Quebec, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, you really f***ed up this time. And to the rest of Canada, don't even think about it.
Thank you
for watching
The 25th Hour.
Thank you for watching The 25th Hour.
The 25th Hour.
The 25th Hour.
Institutions are often forced to find new and creative ways to stay relevant in the face of uncertainty. Take Carleton University, for instance. They are constantly trying to cater to an increasingly diverse student population.
Our next doc deals with the uncertainty of another institution, one of the city's largest churches. Dominion Chalmers United Church and many others like it across the country are struggling with increasingly empty pews.
The church takes up almost an entire city block at the corner of Cooper and O'Connor. Yet at a time when fewer people identify as religious, it's struggling to keep its doors open. If the church ever did close its doors, Ottawa would lose more than just a historic house of worship. Here's that story.
When you walk in here, the first reaction is, wow. It's a place of beauty, it's a place of inspiration. The ceiling is over 40 feet tall, but you don't feel small. A lot of buildings, especially in our culture today, push down. But this one, even though it's so massive, it lifts you up. Hi, my name is James Murray. I'm the minister here at Dominion Chalmers United Church. I've been serving here for about the last 10 years. It's probably one of the bigger church buildings in the city. The congregation itself goes back close to 200 years. The sheer beauty and scale of this place is quite remarkable. In this building, every detail tells an incredibly rich story.
My name is Peter Fisher. I'm the chair of the Board of Trustees at Dominion Chalmers United Church. I've gotten more and more involved in the administration here and quite a bit of the ministries as well. It's a church that's meant for a lot of people to be here and using it. There are a lot of lovely people here that we've become friends with.
I'm very serious about my desserts.
Cafe Church has been going for 3 years now. We're just beginning our 4th year. There's a real sense of community because we've been going for 3 years and a lot of the same people are there. If on a given day there's 50 people there, I bet you 30 have been coming since the beginning. Cafe Church is a really good way of reaching out to people without any expectations of them joining the church or coming on Sunday or contributing financially. It's just a way of providing a bright spot in their day. Really, there is a sense of majesty in the building. If you take the time to lean back and look up, it's glorious. The dome is glorious, the stained glass windows.
There's so many different ways people experience, through music, just through sight, through connection.
Well, if you ask people in Ottawa, do you know Dominion Chalmers? A lot of people do, but it's for concerts.
There's about 100 different concerts a year held in this building by a number of different promoters and artistic groups here in the city.
When you're here on a Sunday morning and if you've listened to the organist play, that's amazing. I often will close my eyes just to listen to the music and visualize the ocean or different scenes when I'm listening to that.
We don't have the resources that we need to be able to keep a building like this. We've gone from over 2,000 members to less than 200 members in a period of about 50 years. At the heart of it, it's about the community. The building gives you a place to hold the community, to build up the community. If we had to, close the doors, they would scatter and they would lose that web of relationships that, spans decades and even generations.
It'd be a big loss for United Church of Canada not having a presence downtown like the one that Dominion Chalmers offers.
We're in negotiations with Carleton University with the possibility of them purchasing the building and us leasing space back from them so we'd be able to continue to worship in this space, but it would be turned over to Carleton and their music program.
Initially we saw this as a loss, losing ownership. Now we're beginning to wonder whether this isn't going to be a really interesting partnership where we may be able to do things that we wouldn't have conceived of before because of the energy in the building with all the young people here. So it's going to be an interesting time.
We have people who've been, they're the 3rd and 4th generation of their family to be part of this community of faith. And so there are friendships that extend across generations.
If I have any fear at all about what the future holds, it's that we're all getting older, and if the dynamic changes in some way that we can't anticipate, will we begin to fragment? For some of them, this is a difficult time, thinking about the future of the church. Others who have been coming here for 50 years, 60 years, it's a big shock for them to think of it not being the Dominion Chalmers they've always known.
A lot of the people who shaped Ottawa were shaped here, and so it has been sort of one of the lights that has helped define what Ottawa is and what it also still can be today.
Late night study sessions are never complete without a little snack, and what better way to satisfy that craving than with poutine?
We have one last story to overwhelm your senses, and it's delicious for more than one reason.
Yeah, gravy, cheese curds, and camaraderie come together at Three Brothers Poutine and Shawarma, where Joseph Karakuzian, its co-owner, makes an effort to hire Syrian refugees.
Karakuzian works alongside these young men, teaching them English and making delicious poutine every day of the week.
I never tried poutine before, and I only had a poutine. We don't have a poutine in Syria, so when I came here, I tried poutine. It's really nice, like the fries and cheese. Chicken on top and spicy garlic and gravy on top. Yeah, it was the best shawarma poutine. My name is Ala. I'm from Syria. I was studying high school. I don't continue because of the war. Then we went to Jordan for years. Then we came here to Canada. When I was like 14 or 13 years old, I'm always think about like Canada or something like that because I always go to see how it's gonna be, you know. To Camila Susalai. So you came here, you wanna see your life, like a new life. You wanna find a new job, new friends. Everything is gonna be new because it's like a new culture, you know. It's really hard to start from zero to find a friend, home, job, everything. So when I came to here to Canada, I was like having not English. I didn't speak English never. So I met some customer who was coming to Three Brothers, and she has invited me to Joe, who's the owner of the Three Brothers.
My name is Joseph Karakuzian, and I'm one of the owners of Three Brothers. It's a family business owned. From Lebanon, 1985. On the 5th of December, on a cold day. Challenge was for sure overall is the language. You don't know the city. You don't know the system, you don't have friends. So everything was hard in the beginning. But you know, like everybody else, 3-4 months you start learning and then we took off from there. The harder thing was for them is to get confident, be comfortable, be themselves. They were always like nervous. And then some of them didn't even want to come to work. I said, you don't even have to work. Just come over, sit here, listen to the people, how they're talking. Excuse me? So I had to help them out. It took me at least 3 months on each one of them to get them going. Now 5 of them working for us now.
My name is Gis Almarji. I came from Jordan, but I'm from Syria. My country has a war right now. Because I don't speak English, so it's hard to find a job. Small chicken sandwich, my friend. Because of my friend Allah, he talked with Joe. Joe talked to me, I work here. So I can pay my rental for me and for my family too.
When you lose your home or you lose your friend or lose your family, it's gonna be hard. It's not easy for you to be smile, to be happy, you know. It's gonna take time to be happy. I lose my smile too before I came here.
It reminded me of myself. This is when I wanted to take them under my wings and help them out and kept them going and keep rolling, get up on their feet. And everybody deserves a chance.
We work as a family right here, and Joe is my older brother.
It's like a landmark, and it fit the picture perfectly. I want you to be comfortable, be happy, respectful, work with a good environment, because I want everybody to work in here, feel like home, feel like family.
I am gonna study in a Carleton college, become a chef, and then I'm gonna looking for somebody to open my restaurant to share with my idea. And I want to do my future here too.
I think we're all a little hungry after that.
You can say that again. I would love nothing more than a poutine right about now.
Oh, sorry guys. I got a little carried away.
That's okay. Thanks for joining us today on the 25th Hour. We hope you learned a little bit more about Ottawa and the people that work, live, and make a difference in our community.
From everyone in front of and behind the camera, this is the 25th Hour. Your new day starts now.